Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from today for you. A bittersweet day because the NBA playoffs and the play-in tournament, which have some great matchups, are right around the corner. But unfortunately, that does mean that the NBA season has ended for several teams, including my favorite team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. In a game that ended not the way a lot of Thunder fans wanted it to, the Thunder have been trying to lose all season to try and get a good draft pick. And unfortunately, for people who were hoping we would lose today, I'm not going to lie, I was also in that boat because ultimately the goal of this season has been to secure a top pick. We won today against the Los Angeles Clippers, who absolutely threw the game. Like, a lot of people have been giving the Thunder crap for tanking and not trying. This was like next level type stuff. The Clippers literally played Ivica Zubac for 1 minute today. They played him for the first minute of the game and then sat him. That's how much they wanted to lose this game. They wanted to lose this game to avoid the Los Angeles Lakers until the Western Conference Finals, which they successfully did, falling to that 4 seed, allowing the Nuggets to move up to the 3 spot. So what this means with the regular season ending today is that all the playoff matchups are set, including the play-in tournament setup. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a play-in tournament preview tomorrow because the play-in tournament doesn't start till Tuesday. I thought it started yesterday for some reason up until just about an hour ago, but it starts on Tuesday. We've got some great matchups. Like I said, I'm going to go through the games today that kind of decided those matchups and what those matchups are, as well as just kind of give you a preview of what all the NBA playoff matchups look like. I'm very excited about that. As soon as the play-in tournament games finish up, I'm going to drop a preview video of the play-in, or not the play-in, the playoff series, give you who I think is going to win each series, and ultimately who I'm picking to win the NBA Finals. I really believe this is going to be one of the best playoffs we've ever seen. There are so many great matchups. The play-in tournament, I think, is going to add another fun aspect to it, especially that Western Conference play-in, that 7-8 game, which I'll get to in a second. Potential for some incredible, like, legendary level games. So I'll get into all that in a second. First of all, drop a like, drop a subscribe if you like NBA content. I drop these videos recapping the games pretty much most nights, and now that the playoffs are rolling around, I might be doing it every single night, so I'll let you guys know. But on that note, getting into the games themselves, there are 2 games that really had big implications in terms of especially the play-in tournament. The Grizzlies and the Warriors played, and the Wizards and the Hornets played. The winner of those 2 games would get would make it into that 7-8 matchup, and the loser would fall to that 9-10 matchup, which is a pretty big deal because if you're playing in the 9-10 game, you have to win 2 games to make the playoffs, as opposed to only having to win 1, and you have 2 opportunities to win that 1 game if you're in the 7-8 spot. So that means that the Grizzlies and Warriors, the first game I want to talk about, had a pretty big matchup today. And the Golden State Warriors did end up getting the best of the Grizzlies, with Steph Curry going for 46 points. This was just an unbelievable performance from him. And really the turning point in this game was when Dillon Brooks fouled out. Dillon Brooks, I know, frustrates a lot of Grizzlies fans because he has a kind of questionable shot selection a lot of the times. He plays like he is the star of the team at times, which can frustrate some fans if he's not hitting his shots. But he was playing great defense on Steph Curry and on the Warriors as a whole. And as soon as he goes out, Curry hits like 2 really deep back-to-back threes that really kind of just put this game out of reach for the Grizzlies. A great game from Jonas Valanciunas. What really killed the Grizzlies in this game, and is their big weakness up to this point, is their inability to consistently hit threes. They've got some guys who have potential, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane. Jonas Valanciunas can hit some threes every now and again. But Ja Morant, their best player on most nights, doesn't have a consistent 3-point shot yet. And he did show flashes of that in this second half of the season. And I do think he is eventually going to develop that more. But at this point, he doesn't have that. And they were really just kind of leaving him open out there, which really hurt the Grizzlies in the end. He did end up, I think he went like 1 for 5 from 3, which is not what you want to see out of him. He's going to get better. He's only in his second season. There's plenty of time for him to improve. But that was definitely something to look at going into the play-in tournament. Now the Grizzlies, losing this game, fall down to that 9 spot and have a date with the San Antonio Spurs, a team that can give other teams some problems. I know the Spurs are a team that hasn't been on many people's radars, but the Spurs are tough. They have DeMar DeRozan, who's an all-star level player, a great defensive player in DeJounte Murray, some great supporting cast guys, guys like Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, interesting young guards. And the Spurs do have the potential to beat the Grizzlies in this game. So the Grizzlies have to be on their A game and they have to be ready because they might potentially face the Warriors again, because the team that the Warriors are facing in that 7-8 game is the Los Angeles Lakers. Whoever came up with the play-in tournament is going to get a massive raise now that the Lakers and the Warriors are playing. The Lakers played the pretty short-handed Pelicans today. LeBron James didn't play that much, but he played just enough to win this game. He had a great performance. LeBron looks like he's feeling kind of healthy again, which is great for the NBA and, of course, great for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's kind of crazy how scary the Lakers are as a 7 seed. The Clippers literally threw their game today against the Thunder to try and avoid the Lakers. Like, they can deny that. They can say it was for rest. but this had big implications. Like, losing this game makes them fall a full seed. So they can say it was for rest. It was really to avoid the Lakers. I'm 100% convinced of that, because they also they also did this the other night against the Houston Rockets, trying to throw the game. It's something they've been doing the last couple games, and ultimately, even with the Lakers winning their last few games, they were unable to make it out of that play-in spot because of the Trailblazers getting a win as well over the Denver Nuggets, who still held on to that three spot because the Clippers lost. And therefore, now the Nuggets have a date with the Trailblazers, this exact matchup, in their first playoff series. So there's a lot of interesting matchups here. I'm going to get to all those in a second. But in terms of all these games that led to this series of Western Conference playoff seeding kind of falling into place, like I said, the Lakers-Pelicans, the Pelicans are super beat up, and the Lakers kind of just walked all over them. In terms of the Nuggets-Trailblazers game, the Nuggets came out in the first half, kind of playing their guys, and then ultimately didn't end up carrying because the Clippers were struggling. And the fact that the Clippers sat so many guys, it didn't seem necessary for the Nuggets, as well as it also is in the Nuggets' best interest because if they won, they had the potential to the Lakers would have been forced into a first-run series against the Nuggets. So the Nuggets, trying to avoid that, I know this is super convoluted, lost to the Trailblazers kind of on purpose. They sat their starters, like I said, in that second half, ended up losing by 16. The Blazers are a team that's going to be fun to watch. I think this is going to be a really fun series, the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, because both of these teams have a ton of firepower and they can really make the other team pay. Also, I feel like there are going to be some really high, like 130 to 130 type games going into like overtime or something like that in this series. It has a lot of offensive potential. And I think ultimately, I really don't know who's going to come out of this series. I'm not going to kind of hint at who I think is going to, because I want to save that. But this does make things really interesting, because one of these two teams will take a spot or will make the next round, and a team, either the Lakers, the Jazz, the Suns, or the Clippers, one of those teams does not make it to this next round. So there's a lot of intriguing things here. I'm excited to see how it goes. That's already a potential or a set playoff series preview. So the Jazz beating up on the Kings. The Kings had no incentive to win this game, and this secured the 1 seed for the Jazz, who had a really tough season. Unfortunately, that might result in a matchup against the Lakers or the Warriors in the first round. Now, I don't think the Warriors would beat the Jazz. The Lakers definitely could, but I don't think the Warriors would beat the Jazz. However, they are going to give them more problems than the Jazz were probably hoping out of a first-round series. Yeah, and now if they win that series, they then have to probably play the Clippers, or potentially play the Clippers. I don't want to write off any teams outright right now, but they might have to potentially face the Clippers or the Mavericks, which are both very tough matchups. And speaking of that, the Mavericks losing to the Timberwolves, also not having to go too hard tonight. With the Clippers losing, falling to that 4 spot, and the Mavericks holding pat there at the 5 spot, we're going to have a matchup between those two teams, a rematch of last year, which was a fantastic series. I'm hoping that we see kind of a continuance of that, because I do think there is potential for there to be some great games in that series, so we'll see. The Heat locked into the 6th spot, have a matchup again against the Bucks, another rematch, which I think is also very exciting. The Bucks get their chance for revenge, while the Heat get the chance to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. So that's a fun matchup, beating up on the Pistons, allowing the Pistons to secure the 2 spot. If they had won today and the Thunder or the Magic lost, like the Magic did, the Thunder did not, then the Pistons would have been in a tie for that 2 spot in the lottery. However, due to losing, they are now set in that 2 spot. The lottery about a month away. I'm super anxious for it. I'm going to do a live stream for the results of that lottery, so stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments section if that is something you want to see. The Nets winning, securing the 2 seed for themselves, securing a matchup against whoever wins that 7-8 game between the Celtics and the Wizards. I'm personally hoping it's going to be the Wizards, who did beat the Charlotte Hornets today. I'll get into that game specifically in a second, but I'm hoping it's the Wizards, because I feel like a Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook first round is exactly what the NBA needs to continue this crazy playoff atmosphere that is already being set up. And then, like I said, the Wizards beating the Hornets today in one of the first games of the day. This was a really close game all throughout. Russell Westbrook really took over at the end. Same with Bradley Beal, who had a really rough first 3 quarters, but really showed out in the 4th quarter. He didn't look super healthy. This was not one of his best games. Really started struggling. Same with Russell Westbrook. But the fact that they were only down by a couple points at halftime made me think that they could still win this game, even with those 2 stars struggling heavily. The Hornets really missed Gordon Hayward bad. They missed his scoring. And I think ultimately him and like a guy like Cody Zeller coming back could be big for them as well. The Hornets are going to have it tough, because the Pacers winning today against the Raptors, with a guy like Domantas Sabonis, Karis LeVert, if Malcolm Brogdon's able to play, like that's a tough Pacers team. And the Hornets have been a really fun team, and I don't want to see them go out so soon. but it's going to be really tough to beat that Pacers team depending on who is healthy. Like I said, the Pacers beating the Raptors today 125-113. The Raptors not fighting for anything, didn't have much to play for, and the Pacers kind of just trying to get in a win to kind of boost morale before heading into that play-in series, did what they had to do. Then we had the Suns beating the Spurs in a 2-point game. This was a really close game that really showed how dangerous the Spurs can be and how they shouldn't be considered kind of some team that they can walk over or that anyone can walk over in the play-in tournament. 23 for DeRozan, 17 for Jakob Poeltl, 12 points for Rudy Gay, 11 for Quinndary Weatherspoon, which was a good game for him. Just a bunch of different guys showing out. As for the Suns, not as usual, but Cameron Payne having a pretty good game with 19, 4, and 6. The Suns not really trying too hard in this one, getting the young guys some playing time. Like Jalen Smith had 11 and 10 in 41 minutes. Mikal Bridges only played 5 minutes, but a pretty big game from a guy like E'Twaun Moore, who has potential to come in situational spots in the playoffs if need be. So, with all that being said, also the Knicks winning against the Boston Celtics to secure home court advantage in the first round against the Atlanta Hawks. The Sixers beating the Magic they didn't need to secure the 1 seed, but continue their momentum going into the playoffs. So, those were the games for today. I believe I mentioned everything. Even if I didn't, there weren't any massive other games. And so here are your playoff matchups for the 2021 season. We have in the first round the Sixers versus the 8 seed, whoever comes out of that. And it's going to be either the Hornets, Pacers, Wizards, and Celtics. So one of those 4 teams. And then you have the Brooklyn Nets against also one of those 4 teams. The Milwaukee Bucks in a rematch against the Miami Heat, which should be really, really fun. And the Knicks and the Hawks. 2 teams that a lot of people didn't have making the playoffs. I personally had the Knicks as the 14 seed and the Hawks just barely getting that 9 spot with potential to make it in through the play-in tournament. But I didn't have any of these teams making the playoffs or making it outside the play-in tournament. So they both exceed my expectations, a lot of other people's expectations. And I think this is going to be a cool series because these are 2 young teams. And it's pretty cool that one of the Hawks or the Knicks will be guaranteed a spot in that second round. It will be a date with the Philadelphia 76ers, who have been very dominant, but they do have the potential to make that series tough for them. So we'll see where that goes. Happy for those 2 young teams. I'm excited. I really think there's so many great potential series in here. Like I already mentioned, with the play-in tournament, if Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook match up in the first round, you already know I'm watching every single second of that series, which I already probably am going to do. I would love to see if the Hornets can maybe make it in. I really like the Pacers as well. A guy like Domantas Sabonis, I would love to see him in another playoff series. And even with the Celtics, if they're able to match up again with the 76ers as a rematch of last year's series, even though I think I would probably take the Sixers in that one, I think the Celtics could make it fun, and it would definitely make for some good drama on my Twitter timeline. So there are your series for the East, and in the West, we have the Jazz versus either the Lakers, Warriors, Grizzlies, or Spurs, one of those 4 teams. We have the Suns versus another one of those 4 teams. We have the Nuggets versus the Trailblazers. And like I already said, a series that has a lot of potential to be super entertaining. It's star-studded with Jokic and Dame, 2 guys who coming into the season were MVP candidates with the probable MVP in Nikola Jokic. And then we have a rematch of the Clippers and the Mavericks from last year where Luka Doncic had that crazy game winner. There's a lot of things with Kristaps Porzingis getting ejected and eventually going out with injury later in the series. I think this has a lot of potential to be a fun one, and I hope we get a similar level of dramatics that we got last season. And then in the play-in tournament, like I mentioned, Lakers versus Warriors in the first game, Grizzlies versus Spurs in the second game. So that is your playoff picture. Let me know, did your team make the playoffs? What do you think of this year's playoff matchups? Do you think your team is going to win their first round series? Like I said, there's going to be a ton of NBA playoff content dropping. I'm going to be dropping a video previewing the play-in tournament tomorrow, giving you my picks for each of the games and how I think that would impact a potential series against another team. I'm going to be dropping a playoff preview as soon as the play-in tournament ends. I'm going to be dropping a recap of the Thunder season as a Thunder fan. I'm going to be dropping a recap, giving grades to every single player, giving grades to Mark Daigneault, the coach, Sam Presti himself, and giving my outlook on the future. What are some things to look forward to in the offseason? So I'm going to do like a really comprehensive video on the Thunder, so let me know if you want to see that and when you want to see that. Should I wait until the offseason? Should I do it while the playoffs are going on? Let me know. And additionally, I want to do some videos talking about each team's off seasons because there's a lot of time to fill in the off season. So I want to do kind of a preview for each team, or a preview maybe like by division or even by conference if I really don't want to spread it out. I want to talk a lot about this season. I'll make a video giving my final award predictions as well sometime in the coming days. So that's all stuff you can look out for. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Drop a like if you want to see that content, and comment below what videos you're looking forward to, or if you have any ideas for videos I could do. I also kind of want to do like a unique player awards thing, or like a team awards thing, maybe like a most disappointing team, most like exciting team, stuff like that. maybe even just some fun awards. So I'll let you guys know if that's a video I'm trying to do. Thank you guys so much for all the support during this regular season. This has been my first full regular season on NBA YouTube, I guess is what I want to call it, or just basketball YouTube in general. So thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to a really exciting playoff run. I will see you guys later. Real one, stay back.